They kicked the maid's son out of school until they saw his test score. Pack your things. You're done here. That voice didn't just break the silence. It shattered it. Students in the hallway froze mid-step. Teachers paused mid-sentence. Even the ceiling fan seemed to stop spinning. 12-year-old Aiden stood in front of the principal's massive oak desk. Small backpack hanging from one shoulder, heart punching his ribs. He blinked. Sir, what do you mean? Principal Hawthorne leaned back in his leather chair, tapping an expensive gold pen against a stack of untouched papers. His smile was thin, sharp, like he enjoyed this moment a little too much. I mean, he repeated slowly, you're expelled. As of right now, Aiden felt his knees weaken. But why? I didn't break any rules. Hawthorne raised an eyebrow. You don't fit here. Aiden, not academically, and certainly not socially. Aiden's breath hitched. My grades are good, sir. I study all night, and yet. Hawthorne cut him off. You failed yesterday's diagnostic exam. Aiden's eyes widened. What exam? Sir, no one told me. Hawthorne waved a dismissive hand. Not my concern. This is a private academy. We cannot waste resources on students who... His eyes scanned Aiden's worn shoes, his faded backpack, his trembling hands. Don't match the standard. Aiden swallowed hard. My mom cleans this school, he whispered. She works 3 jobs so I can study here. Hawthorne snorted. And that's exactly the problem. This school is not a charity for staff children. Just then the office door burst open. A woman in a faded gray cleaning uniform rushed inside, hair pulled back, panic on her face. Maria, Aiden's mother. Sir, I came as soon as they told me. Why are you expelling my boy? What did he do? Hawthorne didn't even look at her. He didn't do anything. He simply doesn't belong. Maria covered her mouth. Please, don't do this. He studies so hard. He wants to be the first in our family to... Hawthorne slammed his pen on the desk. Your son failed. End of discussion. Take him home. Aiden shook his head desperately. Mom, I didn't even see any test. Maria's voice broke. Sir, give him one more chance. One extra day. Anything. I beg you. Hawthorne pointed at the door. OUT. Before I call security. Maria's shoulders dropped. Aiden's heart shattered. He picked up his backpack slowly, trying not to cry in front of the man who saw him as nothing. They walked out together, humiliated, silent, broken. But as they left, a single envelope slid off Hawthorne's desk and fell to the floor. The label read, Aiden Alvarez, diagnostic test, urgent. It was still sealed, untouched. And inside that envelope, the score Hawthorne hadn't bothered to open was the highest score the school had seen in 10 years. The hallway outside the office felt colder than usual. Aiden walked with his head down, backpack hanging off one shoulder, shoes squeaking softly against the polished floor. Students stared as he passed, some with pity, others with curiosity, most with judgment. Whispers floated behind him. Isn't that the maid's kid? He got expelled. Knew he didn't belong here. Maria tightened her grip on his hand. Don't listen to them, honey, she whispered, voice trembling. But Aiden heard every word, and each one stabbed a little deeper. As they reached the school's front steps, Maria stopped and knelt in front of him. Look at me, she said softly. He wiped his eyes and tried to look brave. You didn't fail, she whispered. I know you didn't. You study harder than anyone. Aiden's voice cracked. But what if he's right? What if I don't belong here? Maria's eyes filled. Honey, you belong anywhere you work for. Don't let a man who never struggled tell you what you can be. Aiden opened his mouth to answer Maria. A voice called from behind. They turned. It was Miss Carter, the school's math teacher, the only teacher who ever saw Aiden as more than a uniform or a label. She hurried down the steps, holding a folder tight against her chest. What happened? I saw you leaving early. Maria looked down in shame. They expelled him. Miss Carter's face froze. What? Why? Aiden stared at the ground. They said I failed the diagnostic test. Miss Carter's forehead tightened. What test? I wasn't even told students were taking one. Maria shrugged helplessly. The principal said he was not good enough. Double quotes. Miss Carter shook her head, breath catching. That doesn't make sense. Aiden is my top student. Aiden's cheeks warmed, embarrassed. Are you sure you didn't see an email? Or a notice? Maria asked weakly. Ms. Carter gripped the folder tighter. No, and I would know. I oversee the math department. She paused. Her eyes suddenly widened. Aiden, did you ever receive the test? The paper? Anything? Aiden shook his head. No, ma'am, I didn't even know there was a test. Miss Carter exhaled sharply. That's not just unfair. That's illegal. Maria's heart pounded. What do we do? Miss Carter looked around, then spoke in a low, urgent tone. Come with me. Now. Aiden blinked. Double quotes. Where? Miss Carter grabbed her keys. To the principal's office, she said firmly. Because something is very wrong, and I'm going to find out what he's hiding. Maria hesitated. Do you think he made a mistake? Miss Carter's jaw clenched. Double quotes. No. I think he made a decision. She started walking back toward the school with a fire in her eyes. Aiden and Maria followed behind, fear building, hope flickering. And behind that closed office door, the unopened envelope still lay on the floor, waiting to expose a truth big enough to burn the entire school's pride to ashes. Ms. Carter stormed down the hallway with the kind of determination that made teachers flatten themselves against lockers. Her heels tapped fast, sharp, angry. Maria whispered, Do you think he'll even listen? Miss Carter didn't slow. Oh, he'll listen. He won't like it, but he'll listen. Aiden tried to keep up, gripping the strap of his backpack so tightly his knuckles turned white. When they reached the principal's office, Miss Carter didn't knock. She pushed the door open. Hard. Principal Hawthorne looked up, startled, mid-sip of his overpriced coffee. Well, he sighed. This is unexpected. Miss Carter held the folder against her chest like a shield. You expelled Aiden Alvarez, she said. Explain. Now. Hawthorne calmly set his coffee down. I don't owe you an explanation. Miss Carter stepped closer. You absolutely do. I supervise the diagnostic testing program, and if a student failed, I would know. Hawthorne didn't blink. He failed the exam yesterday. Aiden watched in silence, chest tight. Ms. Carter's voice sharpened. Show me the test. Hawthorne leaned back with a smug smile. It's filed away. No, she said. It's not. The room froze. Aiden's eyes widened. Maria's breath hitched. Hawthorne's smile twitched. Ms. Carter pointed at the floor. Because it's sitting right there. Hawthorne followed her finger, and his face drained of color. There it was. The unopened envelope, still sealed, still untouched, still proof. Ms. Carter bent down and picked it up, brushing dust from the corner. You expelled a child, based on a test you didn't even open. Hawthorne's jaw tightened. Give that to me. Miss Carter stepped back. No, this belongs to Aiden. She opened the envelope carefully. Aiden held his breath. Maria clasped her hands together, whispering a prayer under her breath. Ms. Carter pulled out a single sheet of paper. Her eyes scanned it. Her face changed. Not shock, not surprise. Something bigger. Something heavier. Something that made Hawthorne stand up from his chair. Instinctively. Ms. Carter's voice broke the silence. Aiden, do you know what this score is? Aiden shook his head nervously. Ms. Carter turned the page around and placed it in his trembling hands. It's a perfect score, she whispered. 100 out of 100. Maria covered her mouth, tears spilling instantly. Aiden blinked rapidly. What? But I didn't even. Hawthorne's voice cracked. That's impossible. Miss Carter snapped back. No, what's impossible is you throwing out the top-performing student in the entire grade without even looking at the test. Aiden stared at the paper. The numbers didn't feel real. Maria whispered. Mihiho. Perfecto. Perfecto. Miss Carter turned back to Hawthorne. Her voice was low. Dangerous. You didn't expel him because of a score. You expelled him because you never wanted him here. Hawthorne opened his mouth, but no words came out. Ms. Carter took a step forward. You're going to fix this. You're going to apologize to his mother, to Aiden, to the staff, to the board. Hawthorne swallowed. And if you don't, she said, her eyes locked on his, I will take this to the school superintendent myself. Aiden's test paper trembled in his hands, because he realized. This wasn't over. This was just the beginning. Principal Hawthorne's face twitched, a bead of sweat forming at his hairline. Ms. Carter stood tall, calm, steady, but burning with a quiet fire that made the entire room feel smaller. Maria held Aiden close, her hand trembling on his shoulder. Aiden clutched the perfect score paper like it might disappear if he blinked. Hawthorne finally forced out a shaky laugh. This is all a misunderstanding, he said. Let's not be dramatic. Miss Carter cut him off. No, you don't get to call this a misunderstanding, she said sharply. You expelled a child without looking at the evidence. Hawthorne's jaw tightened. I had my reasons. You had your biases, she snapped. Silence. Hawthorne shifted in his chair. I have to make decisions in the school's best interest. And throwing out the smartest kid in the grade is in the school's best interest. She shot back. Aiden looked down at his shoes. Maria squeezed his arm gently. Ms. Carter stepped closer to the desk. Say the real reason, she said quietly. Say it out loud. Hawthorne's eyes darted toward Maria, then Aiden, his lips pressed into a thin line. You don't have proof. He muttered. Ms. Carter tilted her head. I don't need proof. Your actions speak loudly enough. But before Hawthorne could respond, the office door creaked open from behind them. 3 students stood there, uniforms crisp, shoes shiny, faces smug. Hunter, Bradley, and Sienna, the richest kids in school. Hunter smirked. What's going on? He asked. Why is he back here? Aiden froze. Hawthorne straightened, suddenly relief crossing his face. Students, this is not your concern. Bradley snickered. We heard the maid's kid got kicked out. Why is he still here? Need help carrying his bags. Maria's breath stopped. Aiden's jaw clenched hard. Sienna twirled her blonde ponytail. Principal Hawthorne, sir, isn't this whole thing, done? My parents said this school was going downhill because you were letting everyone in. Hawthorne stiffened. He didn't scold them, didn't correct them. He just looked. Trapped. Ms. Carter turned toward the kids. Enough. All 3 of you out. Hunter laughed. You can't talk to us like out. She barked. For the first time in their privileged lives, the 3 flinched and backed away. The door slammed shut behind them. Ms. Carter turned back to Hawthorne. That's it, isn't it? She said softly. You expelled Aiden because those families complained. Because keeping him here would upset the ones who donate the most. Money. Hawthorne didn't speak. Because he didn't have to. The truth sat heavy in the air. Aiden's chest tightened. Maria whispered. My son. Punished because we are poor. Hawthorne rubbed his forehead. You don't understand how complicated? No, Miss Carter said. What's complicated is explaining to the school board why you expelled a child with a perfect score. Hawthorne's eyes widened. You wouldn't. Oh, I would, Miss Carter said. And I will. Aiden felt the room shift. Hawthorne stood abruptly, face red, voice cracking. Fine. If you want him back, he can stay. Are you happy? Maria stepped forward, shaking. Apologize to my boy. Hawthorne's eyes flicked toward Aiden, then away. Maria, don't push this. Apologize, she repeated, voice thin but powerful. Hawthorne stared at the floor. I regret the inconvenience, he muttered. Ms. Carter's eyes flashed. That's not an apology. Aiden swallowed. His voice barely rose above a whisper. It's okay, Mom. But it wasn't, and nothing about this moment was over, because standing quietly at the office door, someone else had been listening. Someone who wasn't supposed to hear any of it. The superintendent. Eyes wide, arms crossed, expression unreadable. The room didn't breathe. No one moved. The superintendent, Dr. Eleanor Hayes, stood at the doorway like a storm about to break. Tall, calm, eyes sharp enough to cut through excuses. Hawthorne went pale. As Superintendent Hayes, he stammered. I didn't know you were coming today. She stepped inside slowly. shutting the door behind her. I can tell, she said, because if you did know, you wouldn't be behaving like this. Miss Carter crossed her arms. Maria straightened her back. Aiden stepped closer to her. Heart pounding. Dr. Hayes looked around the room before her eyes settled on the paper in Aiden's hands. Is that his test score? She asked. Ms. Carter nodded. Double quotes yes, a perfect score. 100. Dr. Hayes' expression darkened. Principal Hawthorne, you expelled a child with the highest score in the district without opening his test. Hawthorne's voice trembled. It's not what it looks like. It looks, she interrupted, like discrimination. Aiden felt his chest tighten. Maria squeezed his arm. Hawthorne raised his hands helplessly. No. I simply the families they pressured this boy he. Dr. Hayes took one step forward. Finish that sentence. Hawthorne froze. She leaned closer. Finish it. What exactly is this boy to you? Hawthorne's throat bobbed. Nothing. I didn't mean that, Dr. Hayes said softly, is the problem. Silence filled the room again. She turned to Aiden, her voice gentle now. Sweetheart, did you know you had the highest score? Aiden shook his head slowly. No, ma'am, I didn't even know there was a test. Dr. Hayes inhaled sharply. Her eyes flicked toward Hawthorne with fury. You hid the exam. Hawthorne's voice cracked. No, I was going to. I didn't. You lead. Dr. Hayes snapped, her voice finally rising. You lied to a student. You lied to his mother. You lied to your staff. Hawthorne stepped back until he hit the wall. Ms. Carter looked almost relieved. Maria looked ready to cry again. Dr. Hayes turned to Maria. I'm so sorry you were treated this way. Maria's eyes welled. All I ever wanted was for my son to learn. Dr. Hayes placed a gentle hand on Maria's arm. He will. And he won't be punished for circumstances he didn't choose. Then Dr. Hayes looked down at Aiden, really looked at him. You're brilliant, she said softly, and you deserve better. Aiden swallowed. Thank you. Dr. Hayes straightened, turning back to Hawthorne. Gather your things? Hawthorne blinked. What? You're done here. Maria gasped. Aiden's eyes widened. Miss Carter let out a breath she'd been holding since yesterday. You can't fire me. Hawthorne sputtered. I'm not firing you, Dr. Hayes said coldly. I'm removing you, effective immediately. Security will escort you out. Hawthorne staggered forward. Eleanor, please, I've been principal here 15 years. And in that time, she replied, you forgot the purpose of a school. She pointed at Aiden. Children like him. The room stayed silent as Hawthorne collapsed into his chair. Hands shaking. Dr. Hayes turned to Aiden. You, young man, are not expelled. You're not failing. You're not small. You're extraordinary. Aiden lowered his eyes. Voice soft, but everyone says I don't belong. Dr. Hayes smiled gently. Then we'll show them why you do. She paused. And tomorrow morning, the entire school will know exactly what your test score was. Aiden's breath hitched. Maria whispered, Gracias. Gracias. But Dr. Hayes wasn't done, because before she walked out she said the one sentence that would shake the entire academy the next day. His score is going on the auditorium screen. At the mandatory school assembly, Aiden froze. Maria covered her mouth. Ms. Carter gasped. And Principal Hawthorne finally realized his biggest mistake was about to be displayed for the entire world to see. The news spread through the school like wildfire. By the next morning, every hallway buzzed with whispers. Did you hear? They're showing someone's score on the auditorium screen. Who got a perfect score? Probably Hunter or Sienna. No one suspected the truth, not even close. Aiden walked beside his mother, holding her hand tightly as they stepped into the massive school auditorium. The room was packed. Students, teachers, staff, even parents in the back rows. Maria's cleaning uniform looked out of place among fancy clothes and expensive shoes. But she held her chin high. Ms. Carter saw them enter and rushed over. You okay? She asked Aiden softly. He swallowed. I think so. Maria brushed Aiden's hair out of his face. You belong here, mi amor. Don't forget that. The lights dimmed. A hush spread across the room. Dr. Hayes walked onto the stage, posture tall, voice steady. Good morning, students, she began. Today, I want to talk about excellence and integrity. The word integrity made several teachers shift uneasily. In the front row, the now ex-principal Hawthorne sat stiffly, escorted by security until the board finalized his removal. His face was pale, lips pressed into a straight line. Hunter, Bradley, and Sienna lounged confidently in their seats, whispering smugly. Hunter smirked. Watch, my name's gonna be first. His friends giggled. Aiden looked down at his shoes again. He didn't want attention. He didn't want revenge. He just wanted the truth. Dr. Hayes continued. Yesterday, I discovered something disturbing. A student was expelled, not because of poor performance, but because someone decided he didn't belong. Whispers filled the room. Hawthorne shifted uncomfortably. Hunter leaned forward. Who got expelled? Dr. Hayes lifted a remote. A giant projector screen behind her flickered to life. And now, she said, her voice ringing through the hall, let me show you the highest diagnostic test score this school has seen in a decade. The screen brightened. A name appeared in huge bold letters. Aiden Alvarez minus 100 100ths. The auditorium gasped. Students sat straight up. Teachers stared, mouths open. Parents whispered fiercely. Hunter's smirk vanished instantly. What? Himmy, he muttered, offended. Bradley elbowed him. That's impossible. Sienna whispered sharply, he's the maid's son. And that's exactly when the entire room went silent. Dr. Hayes stepped aside. Now you know, she said calmly. This young genius was expelled yesterday. The room erupted in shocked murmurs. Aiden's ears rang. His heart raced. He wanted to disappear and shine. At the same time, Maria's eyes filled with quiet, trembling pride. Ms. Carter squeezed Aiden's shoulders from behind. He deserved better, Dr. Hayes said, and I intend to give it to him. She looked directly at Hawthorne, and today, we set the record straight. All eyes moved to the disgraced principal. He stood slowly, sweat forming on his forehead. I may have misjudged. You didn't misjudge, Dr. Hayes said. You dismissed. The room fell into a heavy, electrified silence. Then she turned back to the crowd. And we are not finished. Every student leaned in. Aiden's stomach tightened. Maria held her breath. Dr. Hayes raised her voice. Because this wasn't just about a test score. She paused. It was about the truth of why he was expelled. Aiden froze. Maria's eyes widened, and the entire auditorium braced itself because the real story was about to come out. A sonic silence fell over the auditorium. Hundreds of eyes locked on Dr. Hayes. Some curious, some terrified, some already guessing the truth. Aiden's heartbeat thudded in his ears. Maria held his hand so tightly her fingers shook. Dr. Hayes spoke again, calm, but with a steel edge. Yesterday, this child was expelled, not because of grades, not because of behavior, but because of bias. The entire room inhaled sharply. In the front row, Principal Hawthorne stiffened. Hunter whispered to Bradley, what does she mean by bias? Bradley shrugged nervously. Dr. Hayes lifted a printed sheet. This, she said, holding the page up, is the test score the principal never bothered to open. A wave of murmurs swept across the seats. Hawthorne stood abruptly. Let me explain. No, Dr. Hayes said. You've explained enough. She turned to the students. Some of you heard rumors. Some of you repeated them. Some of you believed them. Students shifted, uncomfortable. Rumors that Aiden wasn't smart enough. Wasn't one of you. Wasn't supposed to be here. Bradley sank into his seat. Sienna looked away. Hunter crossed his arms. Jaw clenched. Dr. Hayes took another step forward. Let me be extremely clear. This school almost lost its best student because of the prejudice of one man. Aiden swallowed hard. Hawthorne stammered, sweating now. You don't understand. Families were complaining. They said his presence, WHAT. Dr. Hayes snapped, lowered the quality of the school, made your hallways less shiny, didn't match your standards. Hawthorne's mouth opened, but no words came out. because everyone already knew. Hunter muttered under his breath, "Can we just move on?" Dr. Hayes turned like a hawk catching prey. "Oh, no, we're not moving on." Her eyes locked onto Hunter. The boy swallowed. "You three," she said, pointing at Hunter, Bradley, and Sienna, started the rumor that Aiden cheated. "Didn't you?" Gasps. Dozens of heads turned. Hunter stuttered. We were just talking." "Lies," Miss Carter said from the aisle. "All of you mocked him, laughed at him, bullied him, and you," she pointed at Hunter, "called him the maid's kid loud enough for half the cafeteria to hear." Hunter's face turned. Dr. Hayes's voice dropped into something dangerous and quiet. "You didn't mock him because he was dumb. You mocked him because you thought he was less." The truth hit the room like thunder. Aiden lowered his head not out of shame, but because the truth hurt even when it defended you. Maria blinked tears away, whispering, "They broke his spirit. Dios mío." Then Dr. Hayes raised her chin. "And here is the most important part." Dead silence. If this test had not been discovered, this school would have lost a genius, and the world would have lost the light he carries. Aiden froze. "Genius." She said, "Genius." The auditorium went still. Ms. Carter put a hand on his shoulder. "You earned that," she whispered. But Dr. Hayes wasn't finished. She faced Hawthorne one last time, and for the record, expelling a child because of his mother's job. Her voice hardened. "That ends today." The crowd held its breath. Dr. Hayes turned slowly, looking at Aiden, then Maria, then the entire student body. "Tomorrow," she announced, "we start rebuilding this school with one new rule. Every child who works hard belongs." The auditorium erupted. Cheers, gasps, shouts, applause. But in the storm of noise, Aiden stood perfectly still, because through the crowd, he spotted someone watching him quietly from the doorway. Someone he never expected to see. His father, back after years of being gone. And the look on his father's face said, "He just heard everything." Aiden froze. His breath caught. His heartbeat stumbled. There, standing in the doorway as if the years hadn't passed, was the man whose absence shaped every corner of his childhood. His father. Miguel. His uniform was wrinkled, his face tired, his eyes full of storms and regret. But they were fixed only on one thing: his son. Maria gasped softly beside Aiden. "And Miguel," she whispered. But Aiden couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't even blink. It felt like the whole auditorium vanished. Every student, every light, every sound, leaving only a boy and the man who left him. Miguel stepped forward. Each step slow, careful, almost afraid. "Aiden," he whispered, voice cracking. "I heard everything." Dr. Hayes paused mid-sentence. Miss Carter stepped aside. Even the students, moments ago buzzing, went silent. A hush swept across the auditorium like wine before a storm. Miguel's eyes glistened. "I've missed so much, and I can't fix what I broke," he said, breath shaking. "But when I heard them say genius, when I heard how hard you fought," his voice cracked completely, "I had to come." Aiden swallowed hard, forcing air back into his lungs. "You left," he whispered. "You left us like we didn't matter." Miguel closed his eyes like the words physically hit him. "I know," he said softly, "and not a day has passed that I didn't regret it." Maria looked at her son with trembling eyes, but she didn't step in. This moment belonged only to him. Aiden's fists tightened. "You missed everything," he said, voice rising. "You missed every achievement, every struggle, every night Mama cried because she thought I'd hate her for being a maid." Miguel shook his head quickly. "No, no, son. She carried this family. She carried you. I wasn't man enough back then. I walked away when I should have fought." Aiden's lips trembled. "And why are you here now?" Miguel took a step closer. "Because today, I saw the kind of person you became without me. Strong, brilliant, kind." He paused, voice trembling. "You're everything I wasn't, and I'm proud of you." Aiden, proud in a way I can't even put into words. Aiden blinked fast, struggling between pain and longing. People were watching, students, teachers, the whole school, but in that moment, He didn't care. Because for the first time in his life, his father wasn't a ghost. He was right here. Miguel slowly extended his hand. I know I don't deserve another chance, he said quietly. But if you'll let me, I want to try. I want to be your father again. Maria placed her hand gently on Aiden's back. Not pushing, not guiding, just reminding him. He didn't have to choose anger to stay strong. Aiden's throat tightened. He whispered, I needed you. Miguel's voice broke. I know, Mio, and I'm here now. If you'll have me. The room waited. A heartbeat. 2, 3. Then Aiden stepped forward. Slowly, hesitantly. And he wrapped his arms around the man who had been missing from every birthday, every homework night, every fear and every dream. The auditorium erupted into soft, stunned applause. Miguel held him tight, whispering apologies into Aiden's hair. Maria wiped her tears, smiling through the hurt and the healing. Dr. Hayes exhaled deeply, the kind of breath one releases when justice finally completes its circle. But Aiden pulled away just enough to whisper one last line. You can stay, but this time you stay for real. Miguel nodded hard. I will. I promise. The three of them, the mother who carried everything, the father who returned to rebuild, and the boy who refused to break, stood together as the auditorium lights warmed their faces. A family, imperfect, but whole again. Outside, sunlight poured through the glass doors, bright and golden, like a brand new beginning waiting to be stepped into. And for the first time in his life, Aiden stepped toward the future with both of his parents beside him. Sometimes the brightest minds come from the toughest battles, and the strongest families are the ones that learn to heal.